Picture this for a moment. You're sitting in a climate-controlled room, the temperature is exactly 68 degrees, you have a high-speed internet connection, and any meal you can imagine can be delivered to your doorstep with 3 taps on a glass screen. By every historical metric, this is a utopia. We have solved the problems that kept our ancestors awake at night for 100,000 years. Yet, if you look at the data, we've never been more exhausted, more anxious, or more emotionally fragile. It feels like there is a ghost in the machine of modern progress. Why is it that the more comfortable we become, the more our mental health seems to fracture?
It's the ultimate irony of the 21st century. We've spent centuries trying to engineer the friction out of life, thinking that if we just removed enough hardship, happiness would be the default state. But neuroscience is starting to suggest the exact opposite. Our nervous systems didn't evolve in a vacuum of ease, they evolved in response to challenge. When you remove the challenge, you don't get peace, you get dysregulation. We're essentially living in a biological mismatch where our ancient wiring is starving for the very stresses we've worked so hard to eliminate.
That's a provocative thought, that we are starving for stress. Usually we think of stress as the enemy, the thing we need to reduce to feel better. But you're suggesting that there's a specific kind of chemical foundation, specifically involving serotonin, that actually relies on this friction to function correctly. We often hear serotonin called the happiness chemical, but it sounds like that's a massive oversimplification.
It really is. Calling serotonin a happiness chemical is like calling the internet an email tool. It's so much broader. Serotonin is actually a master modulator. It handles mood, sure, but it also governs social hierarchy, impulse control, sleep cycles, and, perhaps most importantly, our resilience to stress. Here's the catch. Serotonin pathways are use it or lose it systems. They are designed to calibrate themselves based on environmental inputs like sunlight, physical movement, and social bonding. In a modern world where we sit under artificial lights, stay sedentary, and replace physical tribes with digital avatars, those serotonin pathways begin to dim. They lose their tone because the environment isn't demanding anything from them.
So, if the environment is too soft, the brain assumes it doesn't need to maintain its internal defenses. It's almost like a muscle that atrophies because it never has to lift anything heavy.
That's exactly the right analogy. Think about bone density. If you go into space where there's no gravity, no resistance, your bones literally start to dissolve because the body thinks, well, I don't need this structural strength anymore. Our emotional resilience works the same way. This leads us to what researchers call the comfort explosion. We've reduced physical hardship to near zero. We don't have to hunt, we don't have to forage, we don't even have to leave our houses to socialize. But without that external resistance, our internal neurochemistry starts to drift. We become hypersensitive to tiny inconveniences because our resilience threshold has dropped so low.
I see this play out every day. We get frustrated if a website takes 3 seconds to load, or if the delivery person is 5 minutes late. It's like our brains are looking for a fight because they haven't had a real one in years. But there's another layer to this, isn't there? While our serotonin, the stability chemical, is dimming, we are simultaneously being flooded with dopamine. How does that dynamic play into this feeling of being chemically depressed?
This is where the paradox gets really dangerous. Dopamine and serotonin are like the gas and the brakes of the brain's reward system. Dopamine is about more. It's the thrill of the chase, the scroll, the notification, the sugar hit. It's high energy and short-lived. Serotonin is about enough. It's the feeling of satisfaction, belonging, and being grounded. Modern life is a dopamine factory. We are constantly chasing these tiny spikes of digital validation, but those spikes actually destabilize our emotional equilibrium. You end up in this state where you are constantly stimulated but never fulfilled. You're high on dopamine but low on serotonin. That's why you can scroll through social media for 3 hours, feel totally drained and miserable afterward, and yet still feel the urge to keep doing it.
It's a hollow kind of stimulation. It's the difference between eating a candy bar and a full nutritious meal. One gives you a rush, the other gives you sustained energy. So if we've identified that the lack of friction is the problem, how do we fix it without moving back into caves? You mentioned this concept of hormesis earlier, the idea of healthy stress. How does that actually work in the brain?
Hormesis is a fundamental biological principle. It's the idea that a low dose of a stressor, something that would be toxic in a high dose, actually triggers a massive repair and strengthening response in the body. Think of exercise. You're literally tearing muscle fibers and stressing your heart. In the short term, it's bad for you, but the body responds by overcompensating and making you stronger. We're now seeing that we can apply this to neurochemistry. Cold exposure, like a 30-second cold shower, or intermittent fasting, or even deep focused cognitive work that feels hard, these are all forms of voluntary friction. They force the nervous system to recalibrate. When you step out of a cold shower, your brain isn't thinking about your emails. It's flooded with a natural, sustained rise in neurotransmitters that build long-term resilience.
It's almost like we have to manually reset our hardware because our software is being overwhelmed by modern convenience. But I want to touch on the social aspect of this too. You mentioned that serotonin is tied to social bonding. We are more connected than ever through our phones, yet the rates of loneliness are skyrocketing. Is there a biological reason why a like on a photo doesn't provide the same serotonin boost as a face-to-face conversation?
Absolutely. Our brains are incredibly sophisticated at detecting social presence. When we are physically with someone, we are processing thousands of microsignals: eye contact, pheromones, touch, the subtle synchronization of breathing and heart rates. This tribal integration is what triggers the release of oxytocin and serotonin. Digital interaction strips away 99% of those signals. It's like trying to survive on a diet of vitamin pills instead of real food. Your brain knows something is missing. It feels the connection on a cognitive level, but on a biological level, it feels isolated. We've traded the deep, stabilizing security of the tribe for the shallow, volatile validation of the crowd.
It sounds like we've created a world that is perfectly designed to make us miserable by giving us everything we think we want. We want ease, so we got it. We want instant rewards, so we got them. We want to avoid discomfort, so we did. But in doing so, we've accidentally turned off the very mechanisms that allow us to feel strong and satisfied. If we look at the human nervous system as anti-fragile, a system that needs disorder and challenge to grow, then permanent comfort isn't just boring, it's actually a biological toxin.
That is a profound way to put it. Anti-fragility is the key. A porcelain cup is fragile. You drop it, it breaks. A steel bar is robust. You drop it, it stays the same. But a living system, like a human being, is anti-fragile. You drop it, and it learns how to bounce higher. By eliminating every drop and every bump in the road, we aren't protecting ourselves. We are making ourselves more fragile. We are becoming that porcelain cup. The path forward isn't to reject technology or progress, but to be intentional about reintroducing biological friction. We need to seek out the cold, seek out the movement, and seek out the difficult conversations.
It's a complete shift in how we define a good life. Maybe a good life isn't one that is easy, but one that is appropriately difficult. As we look toward the future of health and mental well-being, it seems the most advanced thing we can do is return to some of these ancient requirements: sunlight, movement, real social stakes, and physical challenge.
Exactly. The future of mental health won't just be found in a new pill, it will be found in how we design our lives to align with our evolutionary needs. We need to stop seeing discomfort as a sign that something is wrong and start seeing it as a signal that our system is engaging with the world. Resilience is not a gift you're born with. It's a physiological state you maintain through action. The body was designed to adapt, to overcome, and to find meaning in the struggle. If you take away the struggle, you take away the meaning.
That leaves us with a lot to think about. Perhaps the next time we feel that wave of modern anxiety or that chemical heaviness, instead of reaching for a distraction or more comfort, we should ask ourselves, what is the hard thing I'm avoiding? Where is the friction I'm missing? Because as we've discussed, the more perfectly we eliminate the challenge, the more fragile we become. Real happiness isn't the absence of struggle, it's the mastery of it. This has been Oxyzen Health Intelligence. We hope this conversation gives you the courage to find a little more friction in your day.
Because your nervous system wasn't built for comfort, it was built for the climb. Stay resilient.